Dave, Friday night football at Edgeley Park. These nights under the lights always have a special feel here, don't they?
Yeah, if we make them special, yeah, there's been some good nights that we'll all remember, and hopefully another one in front of us. It's obviously an important game, and the start of I suppose, a busy period going into Christmas and New Year. So hopefully profitable in terms of the points return we can get.
Will be your final home game of 2024, a year that no one at this club will ever forget, of course. Winning the title's the obvious highlight, but what have the other standout moments been for you, I suppose?
Yeah, I've done a thingy, to be fair. I've done for the New Year's Day game. I've done like I suppose a top 10. There's maybe more than 10. I don't want to give too many secrets away around what I picked. The obvious ones are, as you say, going back to last season, the Notts County game, and I suppose that run of 4 games really around Colchester when you're nearly there, onto Morecambe when you are, and then Notts County, and then getting the trophy against Accrington. So those 4 sort of mixed together, and then you come into this season. Our first game will always be one that you'll remember. Obviously, first away game, taking 4,000 supporters to Blackpool, and then the most recent, obviously, two really good performances and victories against Bolton, bouncing back from the Wycombe game, and then against Wrexham. So there's been loads. I think you'll look back to what last season was. There were some pivotal moments. Probably the most pivotal one, again, is one I've picked, the 5-0 win against MK Dons. But I think the first time where we played late on the TV, and if we'd lost that game, then we'd have dropped out of the top 3, which we'd been in for a large part of the season. That consolidated our place in the top 3 with MK Dons just outside, and that went a long way to giving us more belief and sort of stamping our credentials around going and finishing in that top 3, and to eventually finish as champions was, like I say, was a dream for everybody.
Coming back to the here and now, you've had a few days to dissect Saturday's result. Have you been able to pinpoint since maybe what went wrong in that second half, and I suppose draw a line under it since?
Yeah, we draw a line under things regardless of what happens, win or lose, good or bad, as soon as possible. It's not so much what went wrong, it's more why, and did we recognise it, and how do we deal with it better if that occurrence happens again. And they're the things you need to get to grips with, and that's as players and as a staff. How can we, over the course of a game, maybe have a reset mentally if things aren't quite going in our favour? I think from our perspective at the side of the pitch, the easiest thing to do is to try and make substitutions, and sometimes that makes matters worse. So we need to look at that. Whether it's controlling the decision-making process of it that doesn't then lead to more pressure and more frustration, which means your technique gets challenged, then it just becomes a vicious circle with what that looks like. We've got to be better at getting out of that, and understanding what we need to do to get out of that, because we've got lots of experience on the pitch and lots of good players on the pitch. So, like I say, we've had a chat, and I envisage that at some point it will definitely happen again. You have spells in games where things don't go in your favour. The hard bit about that is, how can you get a foothold, and how can you cease and turn that momentum back in your favour? And hopefully, when it does happen, we're better equipped to be able to do that.
I mean, you mentioned after the game about leadership. You said that was something that you were working on. Is that in terms of recruitment, or is that more of an internal process with the players that
No,
are here?
it's an internal process across the board, not just with players, with staff, and it's something we've been doing for the last few years. We want to get better in every facet of what we're trying to do, and whether it be leadership on the pitch in those moments, and whether it be off the pitch in terms of round here, and how things are taken care of. We're big on accountability, we're big on ownership, and we need to get better at it. That's not to say we're not already in a good place, but we feel it's an area that we can definitely improve, and it's something that was started off last season. This season being a newer group, if you like, with new faces, we've had a little bit of a reset around what that looks like. We continue to try and evolve and get better in those parts of not just the game and the squad, but the club.
In terms of recruitment, obviously the January transfer window is coming up. You do have a big squad at your disposal. It needed to be that because of the injuries you had at the start of the season. Would you still like to add to it in January? Do you have the scope to do that?
I suppose you have the scope to do whatever you want. Really, there'll be people within the building that ultimately aren't happy with where they are currently around, whether it be game time or whether it be opportunities or things like that, that ultimately might want to go and play some games. There'll be people that we feel need to go and play some games to get themselves closer and I suppose unearth the potential that we feel they have. Likewise, there'll be areas where we'll ideally want to try and create competition or cover areas where we might be a little bit short. But them things will take care of themselves as when January comes. It's the type of window that's unpredictable. That you probably, although you can be proactive, you've probably got to be reactive as well around whether it be injuries, whether it be form, whether it be suspensions. But one thing's for certain, when that window closes, obviously we know we have to go to the end of the season with the squad that we've got. So we've got to make sure we're well covered and well prepared to be able to do that.
In terms of injuries and looking ahead to Friday, any concerns to come out of Saturday, or is everyone as you were?
No, not out of Saturday. The only one who's a doubt, well, not a doubt, who's out will be Teo, who again got injured in the last game, just an ankle. We've had him scanned and he's going to be a couple of weeks. I suppose, but as he goes out, Noilly potentially comes back in. He's trained all week. So, again, yeah, he's available for selection, but the reality of it is he's been out for a long time. But if we can get some minutes into him over the next couple of weeks and try and get him back up to speed, as I say, when that transfer window eventually closes and he's hopefully fit and really available for us, then that would be a positive.
And in terms of the two longer term ones, Nick Powell and Tyler Onyango, do you have a timescale on them?
Tyler will be after the window shuts. Will be probably closer to March than January. Nick is on schedule to, I think, return to train January. It's first week or second week in January, and that remains the same. And probably Jaden not too dissimilar around his return. So they're all, like I say, all on track, but are not long term, but certainly medium term in terms of when they do return.
Looking at tomorrow and looking at this Peterborough side, second highest scorers in the league, second worst defensive record in the league. I guess you could call them unpredictable, but what you can predict is that they'll come here tomorrow night and have a real go. Yeah,
unpredictable in their nature of what they're like as an attacking threat, because what they do have is real pace and power across the top line on both sides of the pitch and down the middle. They've been pretty predictable in their lineup and their shape and how they go about things. So they want to try and have control of the ball. They want to look after it. But they are a real threat going forwards because, like I say, the pace and the power and the dribbling ability they have in wide areas and up the middle of the pitch. But like you say, on the back of that, they've been a little bit open. They are expansive. They do want to play, which again has got them rewards in terms of goals, but it's also there's risk around it. It's got them sort of a few kicks in terms of the goals that they've conceded. But yeah, I would suggest that I don't know for certain, but I've probably not been many 0-0 games that they've been involved in over the course of the season, because they do go about things in a certain way, and are a team that in normal circumstances do try and outscore the opponents, which makes for an exciting game.
Does this feel like a big game now, I suppose, in terms of setting you up for the run that you've got over the festive period where you face the three relegated teams back to back?
No, it doesn't feel like that big a game. I think when you first saw the fixtures at the start of the season, you maybe thought this looks like a really tough run with Peterborough, who were in the playoffs last season, plus the three relegated teams. You expected that those would be right in and around it, and you probably expected from our own perspective, we were going into the unknown a little bit around what we were looking at, but I think we can take confidence of how we've started, if you like, the season and how we've gone about our stuff. They're all tough games. Like I say, I think the league is really, really tight. I take Birmingham out of it because I think they are well above everything else in the division. I still remain. That's my thought and my opinion. But I think everywhere else is pretty close. So you can look at it and go, Peterborough and Rotherham haven't really started in the manner that they would have wished for. Does that mean that they're less of a threat than they were at the start of the season? Absolutely not, because they're both good teams that have won games and lost games and probably haven't found that consistency. Huddersfield themselves have been a little bit up and down and have had a really good run recently, and Birmingham are Birmingham. So they're all tough games, but I don't see that tomorrow's really pivotal in the fact that you'd say, oh, it's a must win because the next 3 games are tough ones. That it's the next game for us, so it's the most important one. It goes into a, like I say, a busy Christmas period where we have an opportunity to pick up points, but we have 2 tough away games in Huddersfield and Rotherham, and then New Year's Day, an exciting game in front of us, but that's 4 games away. So concentrate on what tomorrow is. Darren will have his team right up for it, and we know that we're in for a right test, and hopefully we can come out on top.
Appreciate it. Time as always, Dave. Thank you.
Welcome. Cheers. Thank you.